All right. Huh. Let's do a tier list for each position before camp starts. Starting with the quarterbacks. Might have some controversial opinions here, but let's start with the QB1, in my opinion. That's Josh Allen. Essentially, him and Mahomes are tied for me in terms of talent, but Josh Allen has the better weapons and overall weapons, and his rushing ability pretty much puts him ahead a little bit. But I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to choosing whichever one's your favorite. But right now, yeah, Josh Allen QB1 for me. Even though I do have Mahomes essentially in like 5 leagues. And that's it. That's my tier 1. Those are my elite players. I know most people have Jalen Hurts in this tier, and I understand it. It's fine, but for me, I think he still needs one season of how he did last year for me to put him in this tier. But with the new contract he just got, definitely almost there. That pretty much puts him in this next tier. But he's not in my third quarterback. My QB3 right now, still Justin Herbert. So I'm giving a pass for last season because he was hurt early, rib injury early in the season, and then he lost Keenan, Mike Williams throughout the season, and essentially just throwing what's his name, Eckler, all day. But he still has that. He's young, got an arm, and now a better OC. He was my QB3 last year, and he's still my QB3 because he still got that big body and like essentially some sort of rushing ability, more so than my next quarterback here. My QB4 is Joe Burrows. So the reason why I have Joe Burrow behind Herbert is just basically Herbert's younger. He's got that rushing ability. He's more, I guess, got that. He's not as injury prone. Like Joe Burrow's a little smaller side compared to Herbert. Although Burrow has the elite weapons, he's a little smaller and he likes to rush a little bit. And sorry, that scares me a little bit. I mean, they're basically tied. Like I have no qualms if you go Burrows over Herbert. This is just my preference at this point in terms of their career. But yeah, and next is the 2022 darling, Jalen Hurts. So, like I said, his passing ability is still a little iffy to me, but his rushing ability definitely makes up for it. But I still need to see him for another year with a little bit of improvement. He does goes in that upward trajectory. He definitely has a chance to surpass Burrows, maybe even Herbert if Herbert has another down year, which I don't think so, because they just drafted him finally a legit, well, I don't know how legit he is, and Quentin Johnston, but first round wide receiver should help for sure. And another quarterback in this tier that took another big step last year is Trevor Lawrence. This might be a little homer pick here, but yeah, just half a year of elite production. He might be in the next tier, but they did just add Calvin Ridley. They did bring back Evan Ingram and ETN second year off injury. They added like a bruiser back and Tank Bigsby, so they're definitely helping him take the next level. And he did show us that, even though he was very inconsistent last year, but he's fairly young, showed promise, and he has Dougie P. For my next quarterback to finish out this tier is MVP Lamar Jackson. So he's a little on the older side, and he's had injury history the last couple of years, which should push him in the next tier. But his running ability is so elite that I can't. Especially now that they have not a real, but like a more pass oriented OC, and they did add a lot of weapons for him. His rushing ability is still there, but if he can take that next step as a passer, he can definitely lead this tier maybe next year. So that's my projection, or at least my optimism. He's still like anybody in this A tier is interchangeable in my opinion. Finally, for the next tier is Deshaun Watson. Alright, so he was horrible last year. Hasn't played literally in like 2 years. But when he was in the league, he was a top 5-6 quarterback. And hopefully, as a quarterback, I think he can still reach that next tier if he shows his former self. It's his second year in that offense, a full off season. Should hopefully, shake off the rust. Expect him to have middle of the pack QB1 season, depending on how the others above him right now plays out, but definitely in the next tier until he shows, his previous self. And finally, the next quarterback in this tier, everybody's down on this year, which it's understandable. Kyler Murray. I've seen him drop like late second in some startups, which is crazy value, and I understand it. He's coming off ACL, new regime. They have a chance to get Caleb Williams next year, so a little bit of question mark. But when he is healthy, with his rushing ability and as a passer, he's much more advanced than Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson. If he regains his health, which he should, ACL is basically a sprained ankle nowadays, he should return in the A tier. But until then, he's one of the best buy lows if you're rebuilding. He's probably gonna miss 4 games. Probably gonna start on the pup list and miss 4 games, but he should play this season. Even if you're a contender, he's a buy low. If your QB2 is questionable, he can, start second half of the season. He's a great QB2 because he regardless of, who he has that wide receiver, his rushing ability, he still produces QB1 numbers. Like these 4 6-point passing touchdowns too. That's why Jalen Hurts fell off a little bit, and Lamar Jackson in 4 points passing touchdown. They could be in that S tier for sure. But I just want to clarify this for 6-point passing touchdown leagues. And finally, the last person in the B tier for me is Bryce Young. So he hasn't played a snap, but he's such an elite quarterback prospect that when, Trevor came into the league, he was in this tier. When Caleb Williams come into the league, he is going to be in this tier. That's how I view Bryce Young, pretty much. And that ends the B tier. Alright, let's move on to the C tier. A lot of these players, they've proven 1 year, but they have questions in their games. And it's either there's a question if they're even the best player on their team. You know what I mean? Like Trevor Lawrence, you could say only had 1 year of good production, not even like half a year, but you can see that he was the best player in that offense. So first, Tua. So he's showing the ability to be elite, right? But is it his receivers? We don't know. Because once, you know, he got hurt, that offense did take a hit. But the talent between him and the next quarterback in that depth chart is really wide. So I can't still, you know, believe that it's the receiver. It's probably both. You know, Tua has talent. He's shown it. But with such elite receivers, I can't still pinpoint. You know, it's 50-50. So if he does produce again, and hopefully also health is part of this here. Health concern. That's why Kyler Murray fell. You could also argue that Kyler Murray's in the C tier, but he's proven to be an elite fantasy quarterback. That's why I have him there. Tua hasn't, or he has for half a season, but he got hurt, like I said, and he has elite weapon. And next, everyone's probably gonna hate this, but Daniel Jones, rushing ability, great. Passing ability, he's a better passer than Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Kyler maybe. And he has terrible weapons, and although, you know, his fantasy points last year was inflated by his rushing abilities, but also because his weapon was straight trash. Although they didn't add, you know, major weapons in the passing game, they did add Waller, and that should, if he stays healthy, elevate Jones a little bit, gives him a more reliable weapon in the passing game. So yeah, I was really high on him last year, and luckily he took the next step. Otherwise, yeah, he didn't pick up his 5th year option, and that was basically his last year as a starter if he didn't show anything. And next, CJ Stroud. So the thing is about Stroud, he has a high ceiling. I mean high floor, not that high of a ceiling. But I'm basing this on high floor because although I don't think he has a high ceiling, he still potentially could, you know, get better. Not better, but like it beat my own projection. He's basically to me like a more mobile Kirk Cousins, but he could surpass that. Until we know how he plays in the NFL, I think he still belongs in this tier. And next, you know, the 2022 darling, which is Justin Fields. A lot of people have him in the B tier. Maybe some people have him in A tier, which is understandable because he's elite at rushing. Probably one of the best rushers the last 3 years. Just phenomenal. But dude, as a passer, he's improved a little bit since his rookie year, but not enough to be like, oh, he's a quarterback. Right now, he still trusts his feet way more often than his passing ability, which is fine. He got away with it, and this is fantasy. But I'm still waiting for that passing ability to get better. And the Bears are actually, you know, adding help with him. They added DJ Moore, Claypool last year, but he busted. Mooney should be healthy. He was out. Basically, the wide receiver core last year was straight garbage. So maybe that's why he didn't take the next step. But hopefully, he shows just a little bit of improvement. He'll definitely rise in the B tier. But if he just flatlines and just does nothing, there's a chance he could get replaced. Because this regime did not draft Justin Fields, and they do have 2 firsts next year, and anything's possible. That's why I'm like hesitant on. It's one of my stay away from guys. Like, do not draft because just variance is too much for me right now. All right, and finally, to finish out this tier, is the most polarizing quarterback in the 2023 draft, Anthony Richardson. So basically, it's Justin Fields. Like in terms of passing advancement, he's still not there. He showed glimpses, although Fields was a much more elite passer in college, but his offense wasn't, pro style, so it didn't really require him to, read defenses and all that. But at least with Anthony Richardson, he did show glimpses that, he can operate a pro style offense. It's just he wasn't great. Like he showed, glimpses, but as a quarterback, he was terrible. Terrible. He was basically Justin Fields last year in college. Yeah. Actually, I have one more person in this tier. Dak Prescott. He's getting older. His rushing ability taking a hit. He doesn't rush as much as he used to. Although he has elite weapons. Like, he's becoming Kirk Cousins tier. But he's still, at the end of this tier for me. He's still tied to CD Lamb, which is an elite receiver. Finally, I've been waiting for him to break out. But if he finishes late QB2, which I think he will, and then he'll be another year older, he will be in the Kirk Cousins tier, which is this next tier. And to lead this tier, Jared Goff. So basically, there's a bunch of QB2s right here that can surpass, that can play QB1. I mean, those QB1 numbers, but they don't have that rushing ability that takes him over the top, which is basically Jared Goff. He's a statue, but he produced in a pretty elite offense last year. Although Jameson Williams gonna miss the first 6 games, they did add weapons on offense and Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs. So he should still flirt QB1 numbers. Next person, Russell Wilson should maybe, I don't think he'll climb the C tier. He's like almost 34. But he could regain QB1 status with a new head coach, with a better head coach, with a more better offense, hopefully, that suits him. I'm not sure how he's going to mesh with Sean Payton, but he should get a bounce back year this year. And then Aaron Rodgers. Dude has elite weapons on offense. Elite. And Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall. And his boy Lazard. Not elite, but they know him, and hopefully that O-line is good enough to keep him upright and keep him healthy. He did struggle last year, but that's because he literally had no one at receiver. But he got a young stud in Garrett Wilson, young stud at running back, hopefully healthy, and Breece Hall. And next, I couldn't decide who's better, but I'm leaning Derek Carr. It's actually they're tied, Derek Carr and Geno Smith. Either one you choose is fine with me. They both have elite receivers, although Geno has essentially 3, while Carr has 1.5. And hopefully, if Michael Thomas is healthy and he plays the whole season, definitely Carr will be better than Geno Smith for sure. And finally, Kirk Cousins. Not finally, but to end this tier is Kirk Cousins, which is essentially just throw to Justin Jefferson. Although they did get Addison, who got arrested today, and they have Hawkinson. You could theoretically put Cousins in the top of this tier. Like any of these players in this tier is interchangeable. I mean, but Cousins is old, so I put him in the end. I mean, Geno's old, but he's like, young in quarterback years. And then this last tier, we got Purdy, Pickett, Love, Lands. This is basically my tier, like final tier. Purdy, because he's essentially gonna be the starter if he's healthy. Pickett and Mike Jones are like middling. They're like Derek Carr last year. They're just, I don't think they're gonna ever take that next step. They're just game managers. Then Jordan Love, he could get into the D tier, but he's such a questionable player right now that hard to trust. And we got Levis, Sam Howell, and Ritter. Basically a bunch of second round pick, Purdy quarterback. That, well, Levis, he's gonna get a year, maybe 2 years, to show if he's a franchise quarterback. And then Sam Howell and Ritter, basically this year, if they don't show anything, they're gone. Jimmy G's just QB3. Your QB2, you need to upgrade. And Tannehill, although he's a great, redraft best ball quarterback, him and Stafford, a great option at cheap QB2 you're trying to buy. But I'm thinking Stafford's last year, essentially Tannehill's last year. But yeah, that's it. And the quarterback tier. Next episode, we'll talk about the running backs, how they tier up. See you then. Peace.